Now I'd like to lace this wheel up, and that should be pretty straightforward to do in Modo. We'll do that using curve geometry and render curves. So we don't actually have to build the cylinders themselves that would make up these spokes. We just have to drop some curves in here, and then Modo will dynamically create that geometry for us at render time. Now, while we're building this, it would be very helpful to do two things. First of all, we would like to center this wheel in on our world center so that it's very easy for us to model. Right now, this wheel exists off in space somewhere about, I don't know, 2 meters off to the left. And I would like it to be right there at 0 so that it's a little bit easier to work with. So we can do that by selecting the item, turning it orange. Look over here in the items list and notice that we have 3 different columns here. We have our visibility column, of course. We have one that tells us what selection mode we're in, whether it's an item selection or a component selection, i.e. Vertices, edges, or polys. And the third column is this one for the reference center. And if we click that for a given mesh, then suddenly everything moves such that the selected mesh is now at the center of our universe. So if I were to, say, drop in a sphere, then it's going to go right there at the center of this thing, right? Because we're modeling around that center, which is going to make things a lot easier for us as we work both symmetrically and with radial symmetry as well. Also, I'd like to clean up my viewport a little bit, basically hide everything other than what I want. So let's select this tire again and head up to the View menu and down to Hide Unselected, or Shift H on the keyboard. And now we're just looking at this one thing, which is going to make life a lot simpler for us. Now, as I said, we don't actually have to model any geometry here other than curves. We can just head over here to our basic modeling tools and down to the pen tool, click and hold, and down below that you will find a curve tool. Now, a 2-point curve is effectively a line, so I'm just going to click once down here, click once up right about here, and that should do it. So we're crossing this center line right down here toward the bottom. And then go to a perspective view, and we can drag this in the perspective view to adjust it. I find it a little bit easier to go all the way to a front view and then switch to a wireframe mode. And then I can very easily align this to this trough in our rim. Then go down here, down below. Let's pull this out to the outermost edge of this spoke, or the center hub there, I should say. We'll go to the right view again. And now we're ready to basically make the duplicate of this. We can mirror this across. So to create our other curve, I'll just select this curve, head over to our Duplicate tab, and up to the Mirror tool. Now note, I'm not using Instance Mirror or Replica Mirror. Make sure you're using the regular vanilla Mirror tool and click in the viewport. Then you'll be able to drag the cyan handles to adjust that mirror operation. Then just make sure that we're mirroring across 0 on the Z so that these two will be symmetrical, and hit Escape to drop that tool. Now if we head back to perspective, we have one little bit of our lacing ready. Now we need to create the others on the other side. And that will be basically the same process, but we can use one of these as a starting point. So let's just select this curve, Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste. Move the duplicate back to the back of our wheel here. Let's go to a front view. Now, it'll make it a little bit easier to work with if we head over to our basic tools and enable the curve tool again, because that will show us the endpoints of this curve visually. So that makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on. And then down here, let's make sure that we're coming to the right place at the bottom. We'll go over to the right view again, make sure that's looking good. And actually with these, I want these to go, how do we want these? I want them a little bit outside, let's say, a little bit to one side of the others on the other side, something like that. Hit Escape to drop that tool. Then in polygon selection mode, once again, selecting that back spoke, I'm going to copy it and paste it and create another duplicate of it right over here. And actually go back to my curve tool and adjust that some so it's at a slightly different angle, something like so. I don't know, I'm just making this up. So a serious wheel person is probably going to get mad at me for getting this wrong, but I'm just making it up so that it looks looks okay. And then I'll go back to my duplicate tab and mirror those across. Same process, make sure we're mirroring across 0. And that's going to give us all of the lacing that we need on both sides. Perfect. So now back on the right view, we can head up to our deform or duplicate tab again, and down to our radial array tool. Once again, make sure you're not grabbing instance radial array, replica radial array. We want the vanilla green one. Click here in the viewport and drag the center. Now, the center may be going around the wrong axis by default. Let's change to x-axis rotation, and then move that center to where we want it. And once again, we don't have to eyeball this. We can set the center coordinates to 0, 0, 0, and we'll know that we're going around the center. Also, let's make sure that we're only doing 16 spokes in this case. That's how many we want here. Hit escape to drop that tool and escape to drop the selection. And with that, we're done. So with that, we can go back to our advanced GL shading, turn off our reference center, go to item selection mode, and then right now, notice that all of these eyeballs for the other mesh items in the scene are grayed out rather than being turned off. So this is one of the interesting things about hide and unhide in Modo. If you go up to the view menu and you hide something, hide an item specifically, it does not turn off the little eyeball. It doesn't change the visibility state of the item itself or the visibility channel. It only overrides that. And so if I turn on and off the eyeball here for the body, that is not going to show me the body. What I have to do, the only way to do it, is to head up to View, Unhide, and that will unhide all those things. And now the eyeballs work as expected again. Okay, so if you use H or Shift H to hide things, make sure you're using U to unhide them. And now we have a laced wheel, folks, and that's all we had to do. So to check that out, let's head over to the Render tab and look up here in the preview. Move around, and what the... I'm not seeing any spokes in that render. I promised we'd be able to see spokes in this render. Well, that's because we aren't currently rendering curves for this mesh item. So render curves is defined in the item properties. So let's select the item in question, the item that contains the curves, and head over to its properties. And we have a curve settings tab in there, under which there is a render curves checkbox. If we check that, suddenly we'll be seeing them, but they are much, much too large. So all I have to do is make sure that the curve radius unit is set to meters, not pixels. We definitely want it to be set to an explicit dimension. And then we'll set this to 1.5 millimeters, which is a little bit closer to what I would expect for a spoke. And there we go. Now we have visible spokes without having to create all that geometry in our scene. We can just render the curves themselves. Very, very nice. And since we're never going to be rendering super duper close up on this, we really don't need to go any further than that. You could imagine getting in here and doing all of the individual little extra cylinders and stuff around the ends of these, the mounting points, and putting holes in the rim and all that kind of stuff. We really don't need to do that at this point. So with that, I think we're pretty much done with these wheels. Huzzah! All right, so let's go model some other stuff.